In our headlines on this Monday afternoon, November 13th, here in South Korea. Defense authorities here in Seoul and from Washington are addressing ways to bolster regional security amid Pyongyang's provocations as President Yoon warns of a possible Hamas-style attack by North Korea on the peninsula. Meanwhile, Palestinian militant group Hamas halts negotiations over hostages in response to violent confrontations with Israel near Gaza's largest medical facility, and broad discord over the future governance of Gaza post-conflict. And relevant authorities here are tracking the prices of 28 food and agricultural products, including milk and bread, as well as apples and cabbage, which have skyrocketed in recent times, further weighing on household budgets. We begin with the annual security consultative meeting between Seoul and Washington that kicked off today here in Seoul. Defense Minister Shin Sik and his U.S. counterpart Lloyd Austin are touching upon ways to bolster extended deterrence against Pyongyang's provocations. Also on their agenda is the transfer of wartime operational control from Washington to Seoul, as well as trilateral security cooperation among Seoul, Tokyo and Washington. Now, Seoul's recent suspension of its September 19th military pact with Pyongyang is also expected to be addressed. President Yoon has highlighted the importance of being prepared for a Hamas-style assault by Pyongyang on the Korean peninsula. Speaking at a dinner back on Sunday with U.S. officials, including Defense Secretary Lloyd Austin, the president claimed the conflict in the Middle East and in Ukraine had both direct and indirect links to North Korea. In response, Austin reaffirmed the Biden administration's commitment to bolstering the Seoul-Washington alliance and to strengthening extended deterrence. President Yoon also took the occasion to touch upon the tangible advances made on the security front since the launch of the nuclear consultative group. And defense authorities here in Seoul and from Washington, as well as over in Tokyo, will put in motion a real-time missile warning system in December to better detect related launches by Pyongyang. Our correspondent Peunji has details.
Defense chiefs of South Korea, the U.S. and Japan held talks at Seoul's defense ministry on Sunday and agreed to start operating a real-time data sharing scheme on North Korean missiles by the end of December. South Korea's defense minister Shin Sik sat down on Sunday with U.S. Secretary of State Lloyd Austin, who arrived in Seoul the day before. Japanese Minister of Defense Minoru Kihara joined the meeting online. During the meeting, they confirmed that their plans to exchange missile warning data are in the final stages of testing. The warning data includes the missile's launch point, speed, flight trajectory, and expected point of impact. The three countries have been working on the scheme for about a year after their leaders agreed to share this kind of information during the summit in Cambodia last November to improve each country's ability to detect missiles from North Korea. The three officials also agreed to conduct trilateral military exercises more systematically and efficiently starting next year. They look to finalize plans for such military drills by the end of this year. Separately, military leaders of South Korea and the U.S. also met in Seoul and shared the importance of developing a strong mutual defense relationship. Seoul's defense ministry said Chairman of South Korea's Joint Chiefs of Staff, General Kim Seung-yeom, met with his American counterpart, General Charles Q. Brown, on Sunday, where they reaffirmed their commitment to maintaining a combined defense posture under the Mutual Defense Treaty, as the two countries mark the 70th anniversary of their alliance this year. Peunji, Arirang News.
And President Yoon is poised to partake in the U.S.-led Indo-Pacific Economic Framework for Prosperity this coming Thursday on the sidelines of the APEC summit in San Francisco. The framework was launched in May last year and seeks to boost cooperation on chain supplies, trade, climate and governance. South Korea, Japan, Australia, Thailand and Vietnam are among the current 14 members striving for a, quote, connected, resilient, clean and fair economy. Members have thus far agreed on supply chain collaboration. Over in the Middle East, hostage talks have been halted by Hamas amid fierce fighting with Israel near Gaza's largest medical center. Also, the fate of post-conflict Gaza has been thrown into limbo. Our Shin Se-byuk explains.
Hamas said on Sunday it would suspend hostage negotiations over Israeli military operations close to the site of the Al-Shifa hospital in Gaza.
We hold responsible for the hospital massacre anyone who is silent or fails to act to stop it, prevent it, or criminalize the occupation, and hold their leaders accountable before the courts for international crimes.
Intense clashes have continued near Al-Shifa Hospital, the largest medical facility in Gaza, as Israel has accused Hamas of using the hospital as a cover for a command center. According to the Palestinian Health Ministry, 12 people, including 3 babies, have died at the hospital due to a lack of electricity. Supplies of medicine are also running extremely low, making the situation even worse. However, Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, in an interview with NBC on Sunday, said that Israel had reached out to offer fuel to Al-Shifa hospital, but Hamas militants refused it. Hamas has denied those claims, while according to the BBC, an official from the hospital said that only 300 liters of fuel had been offered by Israel, enough to power generators for 30 minutes. In the same interview, Netanyahu said there could be a deal made for some 200 hostages taken by Hamas. This came amid reports of a proposal to exchange some 80 women and children being held for Palestinians in prison in Israel. Netanyahu said military pressure on Hamas would increase the chance of hostages being released, but did not provide concrete details regarding the matter. Meanwhile, Netanyahu on Sunday once again reiterated his stance on having security responsibility for the Gaza Strip for an indefinite period, even after the war ends.
We want security control of Gaza, with the ability to enter whenever we want to eliminate the terrorists who can infiltrate the state of Israel.
Netanyahu has made similar comments regarding Israel's security responsibility for the Gaza Strip in the past. This is in opposition of the United States' stance, as was reiterated by Washington's top diplomat Antony Blinken last week, when he said that Palestinian views need to be at the center of conversations about Gaza's future. In response to Netanyahu's recent comment, according to Israel's public broadcaster Kan on Sunday, the United States reportedly asked for clarification. 신세벽, Arirang News.
Meanwhile, in response to the sufferings of civilians in Gaza, public protests took place in Europe this past weekend, calling for a complete ceasefire to the armed confrontation between Israel and Hamas. Our Yoon reports.
In Paris on Sunday, more than 100,000 people marched the streets against anti-Semitism. The protest was called for by French lawmakers in the wake of a recent surge in anti-Semitic incidents in France since the October 7th Hamas attack on Israel. French Senate Speaker Gerard Larcher highlighted that the march signifies a total fight against anti-Semitism, which is the opposite of the values of the French Republic. Prime Minister Elisabeth Borne and former Presidents François Hollande and Nicolas Sarkozy were among those heading the march. But also present at the march were right-wing politicians, including the presidential candidate for the National Rally Party, Marine Le Pen. President Emmanuel Macron did not attend the march on Sunday, but on the eve of the march said a France where Jewish citizens are afraid is not France. Macron also condemned the confusion surrounding the rally and said instead of a united republic against anti-Semitism, the event was being exploited by some politicians for their own ends. Meanwhile, in London, hundreds of thousands of people marched on Saturday calling for a ceasefire in Gaza. London's Metropolitan Police put the number of protesters at over 300,000, while organizers say it could also have been one of the largest protests in British political history, suggesting some 800,000 people to have taken part in the march. The police reported no issues with the protest as the people marched peacefully through the city. There were, however, a few incidents of violence from far-right counter-protesters who were arrested. Saturday's march in London coincided with Armistice Day. More countries across Europe have also seen such marches. In Brussels on Saturday, about 21,000 people took part in a pro-Palestinian rally, while an estimated 10,000 people marched in the German capital in solidarity with the Palestinian people on Sunday. Ian, Arirang News.
Korea and the United Arab Emirates have pledged to promote their economic partnership. And for more on these prospects, my colleague Lee Soo-jin recently sat down with the latter's economy minister. To take a listen.
The United Arab Emirates sees South Korea's green industries such as agri-tech as viable areas for future cooperation. Talking to Arirang News on Thursday, UAE Minister of Economy Abdullah bin Tuq Al-Mari said that Seoul-Abu Dhabi economic ties have progressed to an unprecedented level. In October, South Korea and the UAE concluded talks to sign a comprehensive economic partnership agreement, a bilateral free trade deal that is Seoul's first with a Middle Eastern nation.
I think on the levels of government to government, all of the agreements has been signed or to be signed and to be ratified. I think it's a time for business to business to find business opportunities.
What kind of business opportunities and incentives can the UAE provide to South Korean companies looking to enter the market?
So the UAE had a huge change in the economic legislations in the last 2 years. One which was very important is we gave 100% ownership for any company who wants to come in mainland. In the previous legislation, we had the 51 local partner, 49 foreigner partner. We've seen 1,100 Korean companies already established in the UAE, and we're hoping to go see more there.
In a bid to boost global investment, the UAE amended a law to allow foreign entrepreneurs to set up businesses in the UAE without local shareholders' involvement. He said the UAE is interested in doing more business with South Korean companies in green industries as part of efforts to secure a sustainable economic future.
I think the agriculture and food security is a very important one. We launched as well very recently, 2 days ago, our cluster on agri-tech economy, and I think that's an opportunity where we are looking at to work together with Korea.
Minister Al-Mari, during talks with his counterpart at the Ministry of SMEs and Startups on Wednesday, discussed South Korean companies participating in industrial clusters in the UAE. The minister said that in the future, the UAE can also provide South Korean companies with opportunities to scale up and also serve as a gateway for them to enter other markets.
Now, with the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement, we signed one with Korea, we signed about 7 and 8 and more coming in the pipeline. These will open opportunities as well to look how to establish in the UAE and utilize the Comprehensive Economic Partnership Agreement with other countries to access other markets.
He added that the current economic ties between South Korea and the UAE are like that of brother and sister, and that Seoul has companies with cutting-edge technologies that Abu Dhabi plans to not only partner with but also learn from. 이수진, Arirang News.
Soaring grocery bills have prompted authorities here to launch a monitoring mechanism to better track price pressures on households. Our Lee Seung-jae reports.
South Korea's economy continues to struggle with inflation. While consumer prices have slowed down, the burden on everyday consumers has not yet eased. This is why the South Korean government has decided to closely manage 28 agricultural and food items of which prices have the most impact on consumers. Some of the items include bread, milk, and flour, and takeout foods like hamburgers, pizza, and chicken. Also, agricultural products like rice, cabbage, and apples have seen the highest price rises. The government plans to do its best to stabilize prices by closely managing the cost of items that are often sought after by everyday consumers. According to Statistics Korea on Sunday, the consumer price index for milk last month was at 122.03, up 14.3% from the same month last year. That figure was the highest in 14 years and 2 months in the aftermath of the global financial crisis in 2009. Additionally, sugar rose by 17.4%, ice cream by 15.2%, and coffee by 11.3%. However, compared to 2 years ago, prices of the aforementioned goods have risen 34.5%, 23.8%, and 23% respectively. The price of bread also rose by 5.5% compared to October 2022, but the increase is 21.6% compared to 2 years ago. While the price of cooking oil rose by just 3.6% on year, it's nearly 48% higher than 2 years ago. The Ministry of Agriculture, Food and Rural Affairs forecasts that the prices of the 28 items are not likely to rise any further before the end of the year, but may vary depending on variables like rising global oil prices due to the armed conflict in the Middle East. With such uncertainty still lingering, the Agricultural Ministry plans to check prices daily and communicate with related product producers and consumer groups to make sure the prices stabilize going into the winter months. Lee Seung-jae, Arirang News.
And public transport fares also saw a surge of almost 10% on year in October, according to Statistics Korea. This latest hike is the highest in nearly 17 years and comes amid the additional late-night surcharges for taxis, as well as increases in fares for buses and subways in August and October, respectively, despite a 3% fall in travel expenses for ships and planes on year. BTS member Jungkook's first solo album, Golden, has debuted on the #2 spot on Billboard's main albums chart. The chart preview of the Billboard 200 for this week, released on Sunday local time, ranks the most popular albums of the week in the US based on multi-metric consumption measured in equivalent album units. This measurement includes album sales, track equivalent albums, and streaming equivalent albums. According to Billboard's top album sales chart, Golden was the week's top seller in the US in terms of physical and digital album sales, setting a new record for a solo K-pop artist. And Kpop has reportedly entered a fourth stage of development in which it's sharing its training system with those interested overseas. Our culture correspondent Song Yoo-jin delves into this latest Kpop business strategy.
Hi, we are StarBe. Get ready! 안녕하세요. 저희는 인도네시아에서 온 그룹입니다.
StarBe made their debut 4 years ago. However, they came to Korea this August as trainees. They were chosen for the Grow Together project by the Korean Foundation for International Cultural Exchange, which offers emerging overseas artists the opportunity to train in Korea. Over the last 4 months, these girls underwent the rigorous training that K-pop trainees go through, with hours of vocal lessons and dance classes every day.
In Korea, usually they have like a longer time session for the training, and they gave us a lot of time to practice by ourselves. In Indonesia, we always practice with the teacher, so like it's like a different method where Korea makes you like grow and learn from yourself, and it like.
StarBe represents the new era in K-pop, dubbed as K-pop 4.0. The initial era involved tailoring Korean artists to match the trends in other countries, such as BoA's success in Japan during the early 2000s. This transitioned into the second stage, integrating non-Korean members into K-pop groups, followed by the third stage, featuring groups entirely comprised of non-Korean members. Now, K-pop is exporting its training system.
The K-pop nurturing system has reached a significant milestone. Entertainment companies have implemented this system for K-pop groups, and witnessing their global success has sparked a growing interest in extending this system internationally.
According to Park Chang-woo, the head of the management agency that trains StarBe, this model is pivotal for K-pop's sustained global influence.
Adapting K-pop to suit each country and spreading its training and management system can open up new opportunities for the K-pop industry. Overseas fans will feel a stronger sense of familiarity with the artists too.
Having finished their months-long training, StarBe is now going back to Indonesia. Drawing from their experiences in Korea, this is their vision.
We are trying to follow the trend that's happening now, that people like the Korean K-pop groups that have a very unique genre and a very unique concept in itself. But we try to mix it up with our own nationally like Indonesian trends and also Indonesian costume like we wore today.
K-pop's fusion with diverse cultures is one way that could ensure its enduring impact on the global stage. Song Yoo-jin, Arirang News.
And now, on a more sobering note, researchers believe this year will go down in history as the hottest on record, raising greater concern of the lack of tangible action against climate change. Our Chong covers this worrying phenomenon.
Climate scientists from the European Union said Wednesday that 2023 is on track to be the planet's warmest year in recorded history. According to the EU's Copernicus Climate Change Service, or C3S, last month was the hottest October on record and 1.7 degrees Celsius warmer than average temperatures for the same month in pre-industrial times. C3S Deputy Director Samantha Burgess described the October temperature anomaly as very extreme.
When we combine our data with the IPCC, then we can say that this is the warmest year for the last 125,000 years.
The heat is a result of greenhouse gas emissions combined with the emergence this year of the El Niño weather pattern, which warms surface water in the eastern Pacific Ocean. According to C3S, the global average temperature from January to October this year was the highest on record. The previous record was 2016, another El Niño year. Climate Central, a non-profit science research group, also reported that the last 12 months were the hottest ever recorded on Earth. Over the course of the year, 7.3 billion people, or 90% of humanity, reportedly endured at least 10 days of high temperatures that were at least 3 times more likely because of climate change. Burgess emphasized the pressing need for urgent and ambitious climate action leading up to the COP28 climate summit. COP28 is the 28th annual United Nations climate meeting where governments will discuss how to limit and prepare for future climate change. The summit is being held in Dubai, the United Arab Emirates, from November 30th until December 12th. COP28 aims to keep alive the goal of limiting long-term global temperature rises to 1.5 degrees Celsius, which was agreed by nearly 200 countries in Paris in 2015. Additionally, COP28 will concentrate on quickly moving to clean energy sources, decreasing greenhouse gas emissions before 2030, delivering money for climate action from richer to poorer countries, and working on a new deal for developing nations. 정은주, Arirang News.
Good afternoon. It's too cold to be mid-November. I mean, it feels like just a week ago we talked about autumn leaves changing into golden colors, and now we are shivering in freezing temperatures. Those of us in Seoul had feels-like temperatures of -5 degrees Celsius this morning, and will be cold all day before easing a bit tomorrow afternoon. Meanwhile, a mix of snow and rain in mountainous regions in Jeju has stopped, and it will get sunnier on the island as the day goes on. Meanwhile, Gyeongsang-Pukto province and nearby areas are still under dry weather alerts. Afternoon highs will go up a couple of degrees higher than Sunday this afternoon. Seoul and Chuncheon will be topping out at 7 degrees, Busan at 13 degrees. Sunny skies expected nationwide today. We will stay below the norms this week. Then Suneung, the college entrance exam, will be held this Thursday. Instead of chill, there will be rain in most places on the big day. That's Korea for you, and here's a look at the international weather conditions.
And those are the top stories at this hour here in Korea. But do stay with us for our panel session coming up right after this break. Thank you for now.